If you've ever listened to Dirty Laundry by Kelly Rowland and felt like there was a deeper layer that no one was talking about, you're not alone. That song hit different. It wasn't just about fame or feeling overlooked next to Beyonce. It felt personal, like Kelly was bleeding through the lyrics. And for the longest time, everyone assumed the man she was talking about, the one who allegedly hurt her, was her ex-fiance, Roy Williams. But now, Roy just came out and said point blank it wasn't him. And not only did he deny ever laying a hand on Kelly, but he also hinted at something way deeper. Something with another ex. Someone big. Someone powerful. And the internet thinks that man is Jay-Z. Yeah, you heard that right. See, this story didn't just pop up out of nowhere. People have been connecting the dots for years, but now that Roy's publicly cleared his name, the whispers are getting louder. Roy said he's tired of being the villain in a story he didn't write, and once he spoke up, everything started making more sense. Suddenly, fans weren't looking at Roy anymore. They started looking at the bigger picture, and when you zoom out, one name keeps coming into focus: Jay-Z. Now, before you roll your eyes, let's break this down. Back in the early 2000s, Destiny's Child was everywhere. Beyonce, Kelly, and Michelle were the faces of pop and R&B, and Jay-Z was right there in the mix. He was the older, successful mogul with deep ties to the industry. He mentored them, worked closely with them, and was around a lot, especially with Kelly. At the time, both Beyonce and Kelly were teenagers. Jay was in his late 20s. And while the world was focused on Bey and Jay's eventual romance, some folks have long speculated that Kelly and Jay had something going on first. Now fast forward to Dirty Laundry. That song came out years after Destiny's Child disbanded. Kelly had finally started carving out her own lane, but when she dropped that track, it was raw. She sang about being abused physically and emotionally, about being jealous of Beyonce's success, out losing herself. And she never named the man, but she made it clear that whoever he was, he had power, he had influence, and he left a mark that nearly broke her. Naturally, people thought it was Roy Williams. They were engaged once. He was the only public ex we really knew about. But Roy's new statement throws all of that out the window. He said he wasn't the abuser. Was that he had to speak out because letting people believe that lie for years was eating at him. And if he's not the guy Kelly was talking about, then who is? Well, let's talk about Titan. Kelly's son has been the center of quiet speculation ever since his baby photos hit the internet. Fans started pointing out how much he resembles Jay-Z. Not just in passing, but like really resembles him. The nose, the eyes, even comparisons to Blue Ivy started popping up. One comment literally said, "Why does he look like Jay-Z and Blue Ivy had a twin?" That's the kind of comment you ignore once, maybe twice. But when thousands of people start noticing it, that's when it starts to feel less like trolling and more like someone saying the quiet part out loud. And then there's Jay-Z's body language around Kelly. At the premiere of The Harder They Fall, cameras caught Jay lighting up when he saw her. Not just a casual, "Oh hey" smile. It was like his whole vibe shifted. People described it as baby mama energy, like there was a history there, something unspoken but heavy. So now we're left with questions. Was Jay-Z actually the man behind Dirty Laundry? Did Kelly fall back from the spotlight not because she couldn't keep up, but because the truth was too messy to handle publicly? Because if Jay really was the man who hurt her and then went on to marry her best friend, that changes everything. The rumors about Jay-Z's past with young women have always been floating in the background like smoke from a fire no one wants to put out. One name that keeps coming up is Foxy Brown. She was barely a teenager when she and Jay started working together, and that professional relationship quickly got surrounded by whispers. Industry insiders and longtime fans have long speculated that Jay and Foxy were way more than just label mates. Some even claim they were romantically involved when she was just 15. Nothing was ever confirmed, but the rumors never really died either. And then there's Rymir Satterthwaite, a name that probably doesn't ring bells unless you've been following the deep corners of Jay-Z's story. Rymir has been fighting for over a decade to get Jay-Z to take a paternity test. His mother claimed she had a brief fling with Jay when she was just 16 and that she got pregnant from that encounter. Jay has never publicly acknowledged Rymir, and according to court documents, His legal team has done everything in their power to avoid a DNA test, from motion after motion, to delayed hearings, to flat-out refusals. Jay's been ducking that test like it's radioactive, which begs the question, if it's not true, why go through so much to avoid proving it? Rymir has been calm and respectful through it all. He's publicly said he doesn't want to ruin Jay's reputation or take him down. He just wants answers, closure, a sense of identity. He even called Jay a role model. But that part is what makes the whole situation feel even heavier. Because if it is true, then it means Jay-Z's history with underage girls isn't just rumor, it's a pattern. And it adds a whole new layer to the Kelly Rowland theory. Now let's rewind to Destiny's Child's early days. Matthew Knowles, Beyonce's father and the group's manager, once revealed a disturbing story from that era. He said that when the girls were around 16 years old, he made the mistake of putting them on a tour bus with the R&B group Jagged Edge. According to him, things got real uncomfortable real fast. The guys from Jagged Edge were in their early 20s and the girls were still minors. Matthew said he received a call from Beyonce and Kelly saying they were being harassed. He immediately took action and had the men removed from the tour. That's serious. And while Matthew didn't mention Jay-Z in that context, it paints a clear picture of what the environment was like. These girls were young, surrounded by older men with fame, money, and power. The lines between mentorship, friendship, and something darker were easy to blur, especially when the whole industry turned a blind eye. If Jay-Z was around Kelly during that time, and all signs points to him being in that tight Destiny's Child circle, then the possibility of something more happening behind the scenes doesn't sound far-fetched. Especially when Kelly herself has hinted at being in the shadow of someone who wasn't just her best friend, but her emotional rival. Losing your spotlight is one thing. Losing your heart to someone who then ends up with your best friend? That's trauma disguised as silence, and Kelly stayed silent for years. No tell-alls, no interviews naming names, just music, and even then she only gave us fragments. Dirty Laundry was her biggest confession, but it still left out the most important detail: who? And maybe that was intentional. Maybe saying his name would have blown everything up. Maybe it was her way of surviving by telling the story without burning the empire down. When Roy Williams finally broke his silence, the internet didn't just listen, it exploded. He didn't point fingers or throw shade, but what he didn't say spoke louder than anything. He calmly, almost regretfully, said he had to clear his name, not because he wanted drama, but because his reputation had been tangled in a narrative he never asked for. A narrative where he was cast as the villain in Kelly Rowland's story. And when he said, "That wasn't me," the conversation shifted in a heartbeat. People started digging deeper, and the more they dug, the more everything started connecting back to one man, Jay-Z. Kelly's silence has always been graceful. She never moved messy, but people forget that silence doesn't mean peace. Sometimes it means protection for yourself, for your child, for your career, and Kelly had a lot to protect. She was always the nice one in Destiny's Child, the one who never stirred controversy. Even when the spotlight faded, she held her head high. But when she finally spoke about being overshadowed, it hit differently. She admitted that for a whole decade, she lived in Beyonce's shadow and tortured herself over it. That's not something you casually drop, that's a wound. What if that shadow wasn't just about fame? What if it was personal? Imagine watching your ex become the father of your best friend's children, watching them build an empire while you're left with nothing but memories and the urge to forget. That's not just a love triangle, that's emotional warfare, and the kind that doesn't leave bruises. It leaves lifelong silence. Then came the moment that made everyone's jaw drop. The resemblance between Kelly's son, Titan, and Jay-Z. People don't just make those comparisons for fun. Side-by-side photos started circulating, the eyebrows, the nose, even the smirk. Fans couldn't unsee it. And the wild part? No one close to the situation ever addressed it. No denial, no clarification, just air. And in the court of public opinion, silence isn't just suspicious, it's confirmation in disguise. And if that wasn't enough, there was Jay-Z's body language every time Kelly walked in the room. It wasn't Beyonce's best friend energy, it wasn't platonic, it was too warm, too familiar. The kind of energy that doesn't lie, even when words do. At the Harder They Fall premiere, cameras caught it. That spark, that flicker of something unspoken. It didn't go unnoticed. People whispered, some even posted side-by-sides of his reactions to Beyoncé versus Kelly, and the contrast was unsettling. But none of this is just about drama. It's about patterns. Jay-Z has a long history of moving in silence, of leaving trails without ever acknowledging them. From Reimer's court battle to Foxy's teenage years to the shadowy rumors about when exactly he started dating Beyoncé, it all adds up. A pattern of powerful silence and controlled narratives. And Kelly? She became another footnote in that pattern. Another woman who once had a story but was forced to fold it up and tuck it away for the sake of survival. Even Beyoncé has remained quiet about a lot. The leaked elevator footage with Solange, the subtle lyrics in Lemonade, the quiet acknowledgments of betrayal. It all sits in that same category of truth wrapped in art and left for the world to decode. Destiny's Child wasn't just a group, it was a dynasty, and every dynasty has buried secrets. Kelly's might be the deepest one of all, and maybe that's why her voice cracked when she performed Dirty Laundry live. Maybe that's why she looked away during certain lyrics. Because some truths aren't meant to be sung, they're meant to be survived. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what Kelly's been doing all these years. Not hiding, not denying, just surviving, quietly, boldly, with grace.